Welcome back, everyone, to Read Aloud with Miss Godfrey. I'm so glad you are joining us. If you listened to me read earlier, you'll know that this is the same exact outfit I had on, and that's because I read this morning, and now it is afternoon time, and I'm reading again. So you get double dose today. How lucky are you? And if you're listening later on, then ignore that. But we're going to be reading chapter 20 really quickly because, we kind of ended with Zach Powers and Hugh Winkleman just being like, what's going to happen next? And if you're anything like me, you don't like a cliffhanger. So I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 20 for you of Schooled by Gordon Korman, and we're going to find out what happens to old Capricorn Anderson. So we are now on number 20. Today is from Capricorn Anderson's perspective. So let's see what he has to say. Let's see if let's see if Hugh and Zach, what did I say, Cliff? Come up with some kind of game plan to manipulate him or destroy him. So let's see what happens. All right, here we go. Chapter 20, Capricorn Anderson. It says, I don't remember exactly when I stopped keeping count of how many people's names that I knew. It was somewhere in the 300s, and the total had to be even higher now. The yearbooks made the biggest difference. I'd look at those little black and white pictures, and suddenly an image of someone I'd seen around school would pop into my head, and poof, I would know another student. I was kind of lagging behind on the 6th graders because they weren't in the C average yearbook, but Mrs. Donnelly had the elementary books as well. And there they were, the graduating 5th grade class. Rain would be so proud of me. I used the memory technique she had learned from a college professor who'd passed through Garland in the early 70s. You would find a connection between the name and someone about the person. Or something about the person. Y'all, I can't even read. For example, Monique rhymes with streak, and she had a blonde streak in her dark hair. Daryl was built like a huge barrel, but sometimes I had to be a little bit more creative. 7th grade Ron had a birthmark shaped like a crab, which made me think of the Crab Nebula. Astronomy. It sounds kind of difficult, but once your brain is used to working that way, it happens almost automatically. For someone who grew up knowing only one person, suddenly knowing hundreds of them was a little intimidating, but I had to admit it was kind of wonderful too. In Sophie's opinion, studying old yearbooks was just another reason why I had to get a life. Of all the things she said to me, this was maybe the most baffling. How could I get a life when I was obviously already alive? Made no sense to me. We were seeing less and less of each other despite the fact that we were in the same house. Sophie's driving test was in a week, so she never passed up a chance to practice with her mother. And she wasn't watching TV with me anymore because Trigonometry and Tears had gone into reruns, which meant they were showing old stories that we had already seen. I thought it was fantastic because it gave you another chance to notice things you might have missed the first time around. She just rolled her eyes at me. We just saw this episode 2 weeks ago. LaShonda flunks home ec and gets caught lending Troy's Letterman jacket to that college guy she's been dating on the side. I wish she hadn't said that because I wanted to be surprised all over again, even though I knew that it was going to happen. But she'd been fairly upbeat lately. She was excited about her road test and so happy with her bracelet. I was thrilled that I had been able to do that for her. The best thing about being 8th grade president was definitely the checks that Mr. Kosigi had given me. It was funny. A money-obsessed world was the main reason that Rain had dropped out and formed Garland. Yet in my experience, money was really excellent, and every time I spent it, somebody ended up smiling. Wonder why. I was planning to mention it the next time Rain and I spoke on the telephone. Money could help hospitals and disaster victims and starving orphans. What was so terrible about it? Thanks to Mr. Kosigi's checks, I was in a position to lend a hand. It was everything she had taught me to believe in. Mr. Kosigi would be back from his conference next week. I couldn't wait to show him how good I'd become at using money. Also, that I needed some more checks. The first batch was almost finished. He was going to be so impressed with me. What do you think? Think he's going to be impressed? Think he's going to be mad? We'll see. C Average Middle School had 3 lunch periods of 40 minutes each. On Wednesday, classes were canceled during that 2-hour block so that everyone could go to the football field. Hugh explained it to me. It's called a pep rally. You ever been to a pep rally? If you've been at Harris Middle School, you have. Pep, I repeated. You know, cheering, excitement, rah, rah, rah. The whole school gets together to watch the players bonk helmets and beat their chests. And that takes 2 hours? I queried. I was getting better at understanding school customs, but this one didn't make very much sense to me. Not really, Hugh admitted. Most of that time is getting everybody in and out again, but it's pretty intense. We play Rhinecliff on Saturday, and they're our biggest rivals. Over what? Well, football, of course. And as the 8th grade president, you have an important role. Rain and I weren't sports fans, what with the obsession over winning and losing. But I couldn't disappoint everybody after they made me feel so welcome. I followed Hugh into the mass migration of students, heading out of the building at 11:15. We were a noisy procession with horns and cowbells and excited voices chanting rhyming cheers. It was hard not to be swept up in it, even though I wasn't sure what it was even about. So much of school was like that, more of feeling than anything of substance. What's my part in all this? I asked Hugh. He led me away from the crowd thundering onto the metal bleachers and into a low hut marked locker rooms. We slipped through a door that said visitors. Hugh plucked a set of large pads off a wall hook and placed them on my shoulders. You're going to be out there with the team. I was alarmed. I don't know how to do football. Don't worry, he soothed me. It isn't a game. You just have to show support for the team. As if on cue, the PA system crackled to life. Faculty and students, give it up for your very own Claveridge Condors. Running feet clattered in the hall outside. The field exploded with cheers. Even more deafening was the metallic boom of thousands of feet on the bleachers. A band was playing, but it was barely even audible over the noise of the crowd. Am I late? I said anxiously. No, he replied. You're going to be right on time. He eased a yellow football jersey over my head and began tucking my hair under a matching helmet. Maybe I need a bigger hat, I suggested. Maybe you need a haircut, he countered, cramming the bulky headgear into place. A face guard lowered itself over my field of vision. I felt like I was peering out from behind a fence. Is this really necessary? I asked. Definitely. For an instant, I thought he looked kind of sad. I was concerned. Hey, is everything okay? When is everything ever okay with me, he complained. Now get out there and make the school proud. He pointed me through a doorway, which led down to a concrete tunnel and onto the field. The crowd noise swelled to a deafening crescendo. But you know how cheers sound so friendly? This was different. This was like an angry cheer. Kind of mean, even. I scanned the bleachers and saw a sea of hostile faces staring straight at me. But I was here to support the team. I started walking toward the players just as they started toward me and began to pick up speed. I could feel the ground shake as they reached a full-on stampede. It was then that I made a startling discovery. They were all dressed in football uniforms just like I was, but their jerseys were blue and red, not yellow like mine. And I peered down at my chest and I read, upside down, one single word, Rhinecliff. Why was I dressed for the other team? And that's where chapter 20 ends, guys. So again, we're left on the cliffhanger. So we see that Hugh dressed Cap up like a member from the opposite team, and now he's on the football field in front of everybody, the whole school. And now the actual football team is stampeding down the field towards poor Cap. And he's sitting there like, why am I wearing this jersey? What is going on? Well, let me just tell you, friends, he's about to find out what's going on. So we will pick up on chapter 21 tomorrow. Oh my gosh, so exciting. I'm really glad I read an extra chapter today because that was like poor Cap. I just feel so bad for him. Hopefully you do too. Anyway, that's it, guys. Have an amazing evening, and I will see you back here tomorrow morning for Read Aloud with Miss Godfrey. Bye.